All right, we are minutes away from the White House briefing. This one will feature Sarah Huckabee Sanders amid calls right now after the firing of James Comey for hiring just an independent prosecutor to look into all of this. Chuck Schumer had been advocating that. So is my next guest. In fact, he was doing so long before others were saying that. I'm talking about Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, the Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chair. Senator, you think a prosecutor is the only way to go here, right?
Well, Neil, yes, I do. We need somebody with independence that's going to follow the facts. The truth is, I was a longtime supporter of Jim Comey. I had some critique, but I always had faith that this guy was going to follow the facts. And he may not have been a very good politician, but I do think he was very honest in terms of his view of how he would approach a case. Now, when you've got the Attorney General has had to recuse himself, and unfortunately the Deputy Attorney General has put his name on a memo that didn't pass the smell test, that somehow Comey was fired because they were concerned about how Comey had treated the Clinton email debacle, really doesn't pass the smell test. So I think we need that special prosecutor. I would hope he or she would be appointed by the senior-most career official at Justice, so we could do.
How would that work, though, in concert with your investigation of the Senate Intelligence Committee and your House counterparts? I mean, would you all stand back and see what the prosecutor does?
No, not at all. If you go back, and again, I'm not going there the way a lot of my Democratic colleagues are all the time, but if you go back to the Watergate analogy, there was a special prosecutor acting coincidentally at the same time as the Watergate Senate committee investigation. So, we're looking at different things.
He was fired. Archibald Cox ultimately was fired by Richard Nixon, right?
He was fired. That was a so-called Saturday Night Massacre that's being compared to. But then there was, I think it was Leon Jaworski replaced him after that. My history may be a little off there, but I think there was a.
I'm way too young, but I did read my history book. Yes.
You are, way too young and way too good looking, even with that past health issue you had.
Now, let me ask you, though, Senator, it's interesting here that there is a sense that this is going to veer way out of control, and it's going to hurt the agenda on repeal, replace health care. And a lot of Republicans are telling me, not you individually, Senator, that is the goal here, to disrupt and distract that agenda because you guys don't like it. What do you say to that?
Neil, I know when people are grasping for straws. The Democrats didn't fire Jim Comey. They didn't come up with the non-believable answer that he was fired because, gosh, 8 months ago he didn't treat the Clinton email.
But a lot of your colleagues were very angry at him, and some did recommend that he be canned.
Amen, and hold them accountable for what they said. That's your job. But my sense here is the idea that somehow this whole thing is a smokescreen, even though it was created by the White House to avoid dealing with health care. I got to tell you, even in today's Washington, Neil, that's a real stretch.
Then what do you think in the letter that came out, the president referring to these 3 occasions in which he had, I'm paraphrasing here, Senator, been exonerated, that he wasn't the source or the focus of that investigation? How would he know that? And wouldn't that have to have come from Comey himself?
Well, you would think so, Neil, that with this, again, an example where the director was talking about investigations that are ongoing. I mean, one thing that is clear is Director Comey testified, said there were investigations going on between people affiliated with the Trump campaign or Trump organization and the Russians. And there's been no indication that those investigations have been drawn to a conclusion. So I'm not sure where the president got the basis to make those statements.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I can tell you our investigation by no means has reached any conclusions. We're doing it in a meticulous way. We're seeing the, kind of more minor figures before we see some of the bigger names, and some of these names like Page and Stone and Flynn and Manafort. But we've not reached any conclusion on.
No, I like the way you are working with the Republicans. Your committee is a model for that because it's not going quite the same way in the House. Having said that, though, Senator, I mean, some of the names that have popped up for this job include the likes of Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie. What do you think of those two if they were to be the president's choice?
With all due respect to both of those individuals who have both had distinguished careers, they would be absolutely the worst choice the president could make, because they're both known as hugely active partisans. There are 2 ways that I would urge the president to go about making this selection. One is, at least on the FBI director, go back to a 60-vote margin. So you've got to pick off 8 or 10 Democrats to say, hey,
well, that's not gonna
this
happen,
individual
right? That's
passes
not gonna
the smell test. Or the second would be, go ahead and enter into a consultation with the Democrats so you kind of come up with a consensus choice. If you end up putting in somebody who's a hardcore partisan at this point, I think you're going to see a revolt actually at the FBI and the Justice Department, and I think you're going to see the Democrats go over the brink. And, you know, I'm not normally one who kind of goes over the edge, but if the president nominated somebody like Mr. Giuliani or Mr. Christie, I would join in doing everything possible to stop them, because that's not what the country needs right now.
All right, Senator Warner, thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate it.